Have you ever felt like you're your own worst enemy? Like there's an invisible force holding you back? Well, today we're going to talk about how to literally rewire your brain for success. And no, this isn't just about thinking positive. It's about a real biological upgrade. Let's get into it.
Seriously, let that sink in for a second. This suggests that for so many of us, the biggest wall we'll ever have to climb isn't our talent. It's not a lack of opportunity. It's the invisible script that's running in our own heads 24/7. I mean, what if you could actually become the architect of your own mind? The amazing part is you can. The science totally backs this up. And today, we're going to show you exactly how.
Okay, so first things first, we have to understand what we're up against. It all comes down to these hidden programs, the mental shortcuts our brain runs on autopilot, completely without us noticing.
So this idea actually comes from something called cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. Automatic thoughts are basically those gut reactions. You know the ones, ugh, I can't do this, or I'm definitely going to fail. They just pop into your head and they feel so true, but a lot of the time, they're just old, unhelpful programs from our past. And this is the real kicker. This is where we get stuck. These thoughts, they're not random. They are part of a super fast, self-reinforcing cycle. It all starts with a trigger, right? It could be a new challenge at work, a tough conversation, anything that pushes you out of your comfort zone. And bam, before you can even really think, your brain pulls up that old, dusty program, that automatic thought we just talked about. And the result? That all too familiar feeling of being completely stuck, which just proves to your brain that, yep, you can't change. See the loop? Situation, thought, feeling. It's a lightning-fast cycle that keeps you right where you are. But here's the absolute best part of this whole story. That loop, it is not permanent. Your brain isn't some fixed piece of hardware. Think of it more like adaptable software you can update. This quote points to something absolutely fascinating from neuroscience. Basically, what researchers are finding is that the pathways in our brain that control our habits aren't a one-way street. They go both ways, which means we have the power to consciously step in and break those old patterns. This biological superpower is called neuroplasticity. And I want you to really get this. Every single time you challenge an old thought or try a new behavior, you are literally, physically forging new connections in your brain. You're not just thinking positive, you are actively rewiring your own mind. So the big question is, how do we actually do it, right? How do we use this neuroplasticity on purpose? Well, let's walk through a super practical 5-step guide. We're going to cover each of these, from learning how to catch your old programming in the act, all the way to building an environment that makes your growth almost automatic. All right, step 1 is all about awareness. You can't change a program if you don't even know it's running. This is all about learning to intercept those automatic thoughts before they can grab the steering wheel. And this is just a brilliant example of how powerful a simple reframe can be. Changing I can't to how can I? It completely flips a switch in your brain from a dead end to problem-solving mode. And just adding that tiny little word, yet, that acknowledges where you are right now, but blows the door wide open for future possibilities. It's a game changer. Okay, so here's a super powerful tool to put this into practice. It's called a thought record, and it comes straight out of CBT. It gives you a structured way to literally take apart your negative thoughts. You just write down the situation, the automatic thought it triggered, and how you felt. Then you get to be a detective for your own mind. You look for evidence for the thought, but, and this is the important part, you also look for evidence against it. Just doing that helps you realize the thought isn't 100% true, which lets you create a new, more balanced, and way more helpful one. All right, so once you start catching those old programs, it's time to intentionally install some new ones. This is where affirmations come in. And look, I'm not talking about some woo-woo magical thinking. Think of it more like targeted mental practice. And get this, according to health experts, this isn't just wishful thinking. They've done brain scans. And when people say positive affirmations, the reward centers of the brain literally light up. You're basically telling your brain, hey, focus on this, believe this. By repeating something like, I'm training my mind to see opportunities, you're laying the foundation for brand new neural pathways. Thoughts alone, though, aren't quite enough. To make those new brain pathways strong and permanent, you need consistent action. The key here is to build habits that reinforce your new way of thinking every single day. You know, this could be anything from journaling your wins at the end of the day, listening to an inspiring talk on your commute, or even just taking 5 minutes to visualize a successful outcome. And check out that quote from Healthline. Journaling right after you do something helps your brain link the action with the good feeling, which makes it way more likely you'll do it again.
Okay, let's zoom out from our internal world for a minute. The people you hang out with, the content you consume, the spaces you're in, they all have a massive impact on your mental programming.
You've probably heard the saying that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. It's so true. High-performing people thrive in environments that challenge them, so you have to actively seek out relationships and communities that pull you up, that encourage your growth, and that match the person you're trying to become. And this brings us to the final and honestly the most critical step: action. Action is the ultimate proof your brain needs to make all this new programming stick. Every time you act in line with your new mindset, especially when it's hard, you are sending the loudest possible signal that this change is real. So as we've seen, rewiring your brain isn't about crossing your fingers and hoping for a different outcome. It's about consciously stepping into the role of a designer, the designer of your own mind. Every time you catch a thought, every time you reframe a belief, every time you take a new action, you are actively programming your mind. You are building piece by piece the identity of someone who grows, who learns, and who ultimately wins. So this isn't just some interesting idea to think about. It's a starting point. I'll leave you with this question to really chew on. What is the one automatic thought, the one limiting belief that you are ready to start rewiring, starting right now?